Okay, here we go. The Friday show. And actually, for a lot of people, it's a 3-day weekend because Monday is a holiday in Rhode Island. So, all right. Gian says audio is good. There we go. X audio is solid. Folks, good afternoon, one and all. Yes, we will be active with Road Patrol Live this weekend. Let me just check Facebook, but I have no reason to believe Facebook would not be solid. We always like to double check. Yes, I was out. Oh, suddenly I don't see myself on Facebook. There I am. Okay, there we go. A little shadowy, but audio is, I believe the audio is fine. Yeah, a little shadowy. That's all right. There I am. Okay. Yes, there I am. A little shadowy. It is a little shadowy. Audio is, I believe the audio is fine. I think the audio is fine. The audio is going to work. Yep. And we're going to do that. And we are going to begin in just 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And we're live everywhere with the latest on the breaking news. Okay. Will we be active this weekend? That's really a silly question. Of course, last Friday night, that was a busy night with Westerly Police and then the whole North Kingstown situation. Who knows what could happen over a long holiday weekend? We don't know, but we're going to find out. Yes. And I will address the situation with the individual who, was state police grabbed him in Cranston. And I do have people asking me, and I'm going to touch on that. So we have a lot to get to on this Friday. Let me, let's see. Where am I? There we go. All right. We'll move that around. I was out earlier. Thus the cap. Folks, it is the Road Patrol Live cap, which I love. They're available in the shop at depetro.com. Fantastic. Look how beautiful that is. Road Patrol Live. Yes. Now we also have the command center, but we have the normal one. So that's funny. All right, and we are going to begin momentarily with the situation with this Aaron Cabrera. There he is, arrested by state police. Aaron Cabrera. Yep. Now, right now it is true. We're live on YouTube. We're live on X. We're live on Facebook. All of that. Yes. There it is. Let me just check. Our YouTube crowd. We're going to be bringing back the late afternoon show in the fall. That's a September thing. I like to enjoy the nice weather as well. This Debbie. Yes, Texas Brad. Yes. All right, and we're going to begin, folks, at, where is it? 106. Yes, 106 on what is a beautiful Friday afternoon and should lead into, a terrific weekend. Rhode Island is the only state. Monday is a holiday in Rhode Island. Victory over Japan Day. VJ Day is this Monday. So it's a 3-day weekend in Rhode Island. Now, a lot of, stores are open. Businesses, for the most part, are open, but many people are closed. All state government is closed. The courts are closed. Rhode Island still separates the victory over Japan, VJ Day, which happened obviously in 1945. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They're having a great season. They are a full-scale nursery, everything you need to make your home a showstopper. And don't forget, they have delicious fresh vegetables that you can pop in. They have great summer corn. They have fresh peaches, all fresh vegetables. They're located 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Family-run business. I share their Facebook page. They grind it. They do a fantastic job. Family-run business. Stop in and see them. My friends, Steve and Debbie and Junior and Laura and Byron, PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Pop in on your way back from the beaches and grab some fresh vegetables. Now, DePietro.com, which we have some stories we're going to update over the course of the weekend. Brought to you by the Coesit Inn, DePietro.com. Don't forget the Coesit Inn. They're open 7 days a week, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. Plus, they have the market at Coesit. I highly recommend the Coesit Inn. It's also the perfect spot. Listen, tragically, death is part of life. And at the Coesit Inn, they could host a pretty large group for the collation lunch. When someone passes away, and then you have, many times the wake, the funeral, and then the family wants to get together, share a meal, and remember the loved one. And the Coesit Inn, again, they're open 7 days a week, and they can handle a group of, if it's going to be 20 people, or maybe it's going to be 40 people, or even 50 people. I know they've hosted retirement dinners of over 100 people. They could host 150 people. And the Coesit Inn, there's something on the menu for everyone. The chef special, pork chop, pierogi, surf and turf, of course, traditional steamers, clam cakes and chowder, the seafood melody bowl, tequila lime chicken, and a lot more. The Coesit Inn. Stop in and see them. And again, a Rhode Island institution. Well, folks, I want to start off, and what I want to touch on is there's a story that hit, and I did receive several people that reached out to me, and they were asking about this individual who was apprehended. And I understand people are asking, but it's the climate that we're in right now. And that is, and I want to be very clear, this is no reflection on police. Police have to follow the instructions of the elected officials. And what I'm talking about, and I did share information about this, and it's the Aaron Cabrera, 31 of Western Promenade in Cranston. Now, I know where that is because I grew up in Edgewood, and this is right near Beachmont Field. Right near Beachmont Field, which not only did I used to play, baseball at Beachmont Field, like so many other people, and then I think it became Carberry Field. I'm not sure what they call it now, but if you know Edgewood, you know where Beachmont is. Plus, they have the tennis courts there. I remember when they put the tennis courts in. Actually, I think when they were almost brand new. I was very young, but then the basketball court right there. But the Rhode Island State Police announced they concluded a joint investigation. I'm not sure how Bristol police were involved, but Bristol police was involved as well. And they issued a search warrant, 98 Western Promenade, Cranston. As I mentioned, that is right near Beachmont Field. That is, it's off Park Avenue. It's situated, if you kept going, then you hit Villa, and then you go in towards Roger Williams Park. But it's kind of off of Park Avenue, and then right in that section that would be Warwick Avenue and then Park Avenue, but closer to Park Avenue is Western Promenade. So not only do they arrest him, 31 years old, but on top of that, he located 55 grams of fentanyl, 10 grams of crack from inside the residence. They also seized a fully loaded semi-automatic Smith & Wesson inside of his vehicle. Narcotics firearm charges include possession with intent to deliver, and all of that, by the way, within a school zone. Now, what also makes this different is, where is someone like this living? He was living above Promenade Kids, which is a daycare center in Cranston, and actually a daycare center in Edgewood. And it's operated by Annette Jordan. And this guy is in a relationship with her daughter. and was residing with her on the second floor above the daycare center, Promenade Kids. What do you have? You have Aaron Cabrera with a 9mm and 55 grams of fentanyl. Now, where is he from? Aaron Cabrera. I don't know, but I have received different information about this. Some people have told me that he is in fact an illegal. As I stated in the past, our state, Rhode Island, has. Again, I don't know all the specifics, but here's what you should know. Right now, under Governor McKee with the state police, there's the police in Rhode Island. They don't even inquire as regards to someone's immigration status. And they should inquire about someone's immigration status. I've heard he's here unlawfully. Now, many times you have to understand that many of these individuals, they say, oh no, I came here legally, but they overstay a visa. They get a visa to visit, and then they don't go back, and then they just stay here. So this month, the month of August, wait till you see the huge parade and festival they're going to have in Providence along Broad Street for the Dominican Festival. Rhode Island, as I've talked about, Rhode Island has a huge Dominican population, and there's so many people that just go back and forth to the Dominican Republic, and they're here illegally, and they have an apartment here, and then they also have an apartment or home there, and they come here and they get all the benefits, and they send their kids to the schools, and then in the wintertime, a lot of times they pull them out and they go back to the DR, to the Dominican Republic. They go back for 8 to 10 weeks, and then they bring them back in the spring. But so many of them are not supposed to be here. So this guy, because someone did ask me, more than one person asked me, what's his immigration status? Well, you know, as I have mentioned, Rhode Island, it shouldn't be that way. Just understand that Rhode Island law enforcement, whether it's the state police or your local police department, they could be listing that they're not even supposed to ask anymore. And in most cities in Rhode Island, the police are not allowed to ask. As a matter of fact, they're discouraged from asking about it. So, but it doesn't have to be that way. And as I've also stated, when are things going to change? Well, one thing that we've learned is our local media, they're more than willing to comply and almost be complicit in a lot of the lies. When you have, and you're going to see this play out, when you have elected officials, specifically Governor McKee and Matt Tost and some of the others, they'll tell you, oh no, we're not a sanctuary state. We follow all law. Folks, they all, you know, that's like many of the crooks that claim that they're businessmen. You know, a lot of drug dealers also just happen to have a bar and a restaurant, or one of the two, and they launder all the money through that. And they just say, no, I'm just a bar owner. I'm not a drug dealer. I mean, they always say that. So Magritte and Matos, they continue to, oh no, we follow immigration law. Folks, it's pretty simple. If the state did, why is Rhode Island as a state listed as a sanctuary state? Now, I played on the radio show, the mayor of Providence, Mayor Smiley, he acted as though it was a typo. He acted as though it was some kind of an error, meaning an error on the DOJ. Yeah, you know, we were confused by that. We're not sure about that. But they know the answer, because Rhoda and McKee, they're allowed to lie. I'll say that. When Mayor Smiley went on Channel 12, he was allowed to lie, to get away with it. The worst is when Governor McKee goes on WMcKee-RO. And what do they say? Hey, we just asked a question. They know he's lying. At what point is that not that you're complicit and an enabler in the lie? They know, and he knows exactly why we're on the list. And it could be reversed. It's pretty, it's not difficult. If governor agreed, if he said, I want you, if he said to his aides, do you know how many people he has on staff? Do you know how many attorneys Governor agreed? How many attorneys that we pay, they're on his payroll? They could easily say, tell us how we could fit in the same category as states that are not on the list. They know the answer. They don't want to do it. And it has to do with their interaction with ICE. In other states, law enforcement could be encouraged. Do you understand? This guy is pumping out fentanyl above a daycare center. And it's a ho-hum. If somebody puts up a flyer against the trans community, they have a press conference and a march. A flyer. If somebody just put, I don't think trans should be teachers. McGreed and the rest of them, McKee and all of them, they'd have a protest and a march. An illegal is selling fentanyl. Of course, he has a weapon because you're a drug dealer. You have to carry a weapon because there's people looking to rip you off. He is dealing above a daycare center. That daycare center should lose its license. Too bad. Why don't we start with this? Why don't we start with, if you're a daycare, you can't have a drug dealer living with your daughter above the daycare. This is bordering on absurd. Folks, this is how, let me be very clear, this is how third world countries are run. That's what this is. Like I said, someone said around Cranston Street, and I see some of the areas you go, it's almost like third world. And I correct them. No, it's not like third world. It is third world. Today's not like Friday. It is Friday. And tomorrow's not like Saturday. It is Saturday. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by Propane Plus. Remember, for all your propane needs, call them today, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. For Propane Plus, heating and cooling for all your propane needs. If you use propane, call Propane Plus or log on to their website, propaneplus.com. You just type in your zip code. They're a very user-friendly site, residential or commercial. You can depend on Propane Plus. They're the best. I've dealt with the Johnson family for many years. They're the best. 401-885-4209 or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. I also want to remind you that Kids Club, still a long way to go. You're not going to put your kids, what I would do, number one, that daycare should be shut down. Do you realize how easy it could be for some of that fentanyl to end up with some of those children? How a drug dealer, there could have been a gun battle with the drug dealer. That, and I am going to follow up on this. That daycare should be shut down immediately. I'll tell you what I would do. Instead, where you want to have your children in a safe atmosphere, Kids Club on the Pike. Kids Club on the Pike. Now, they host birthday parties, before and after school program, preschool, and right now their summer camp is going on. Kids Club on the Pike. Here's the good news. No drug dealers, illegal alien drug dealers living above. Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. I share their Facebook page. There's still time for their summer camp. You still have a long way to go. Kids Club on the Pike. I am going to follow up. That daycare center should be shut down. She didn't know. The goon living with the daughter is an illegal alien drug dealer. Well, you should have known. Close it. I didn't know. Well, you'll know now when there's a close sign. This wouldn't happen at Kids Club on the Pike. Right off of 295 Plainfield Pike, 401-443-5336. Now, a little bit of follow-up yesterday. Actually, all week. Jolene Lima, we got to save Newport Creamery. Yeah, guess what the owners of Newport Creamery said? We're leaving. We're not staying. and we're not going to fight it. We're leaving. We're not going to fight it. This has apparently been going on for 5 years. So what is Newport Creamery? What do they say? No fighting, no calling the lawyers. The lease wasn't renewed, and the company's going to stay and look to stay elsewhere in Cranston. So we've been negotiating a new lease with Garden City Management 5 years. They're not interested in hearing from us. Listen, the Apple Store will be a home run. But what's missing from the equation are these two bonehead, Andy Andahar and Charlene Lima, Newport Creamery, where they trying to squeeze the landlord. They have no business doing it. Do you understand? Not even the owners of Newport Creamery are looking to stay there. Garden City, they have a right to run Garden City, their development. They have a right to run it where they feel it's going to be the most successful. And if sometimes a business maybe no longer fits the model of what they're looking for, they have the right to then move one company in and move someone else out. Newport Creamery had a very long run. I want to be very clear. This is nothing against Newport Creamery. And as I've stated, I've interviewed the grandfather, Janicki. I interviewed him. I've met the sons. I know the family. They're a wonderful family. And it's not easy doing business in Rhode Island. But I objected to Charlene Lima, Newport Creamery, and them trying to inject themselves where they then try to go to war against the people that are running it. If there is any type of store, maybe there's a store that went in there and at one time they had a product that was very popular, doing well, and now not so much. Well, they have the right to maybe get a tenant that fits. And as I've stated, if this can happen and they could get an Apple store there, I'm telling you right now, that's a huge win, because the only Apple store that is in our area right now is at Providence Place Mall. And as I've stated, and I'm not alone, that's not only the reason I go to Providence Place Mall, that's the only reason a lot of people go to Providence Place Mall. And that would bring in, there's a certain individual that visits the Apple store. A lot of times they're younger, they're educated, they're of means, and they're the type of consumer you want. So if Garden City could land an Apple store, that would be an absolute home run for Garden City, and it would be a loss for Providence Place Mall, but that's not their problem. They're a very competitive business. So again, I want to reset. This is nothing against Newport Creamery, which they have other locations. I went by one the other night on Smith Street. They have the one in Smithfield. They have one, I think, in Middletown. They have one in North Kingstown. There's a bunch of locations. And, I have eaten there. I think about 2 years ago, I was covering something in Smithfield, and, I hadn't eaten, and I went dashing out there, and I went to Newport Creamery, and I think I even had an awful, and had, I don't know, a BLT or something like that. And it was fine. But you're talking about Apple that could bring in a lot of new customers and a lot of desirable customers into there. What I object to is the way these two politicians immediately tried to inject themselves into the equation. And that Charlene Lima spouting out Newport Creamery, it's embarrassing. And it is frightening to think that she was, and by the way, she had no idea what she was talking about. None. She even started, I'm going to go after their tax break. They don't have any tax breaks. They're selling, kids like them, those terrible terribles. No, they're called awfuls. That's what I meant. Terrible. No, they're not terrible terribles, Charlene. They're called awfuls. Again, I get it. I get the whole thing. Awful, clam cake and chowder, blah, blah, blah. Listen, all that nostalgia stuff, it's fine. And Mayor Hopkins even said, yeah, we'll try to help them find a new location, but this is a business decision. And where Mayor Hopkins, the mayor of Cranston, is smart, is you don't get involved with something like that. But not Charlene Lima. What a dope. I mean, it's embarrassing. I don't know this Andy Andahar, but the two of them, She had no idea what she was talking about. Really, really embarrassing. And Newport Creamery, listen, either going to have a Cranston location or they're not going to have a Cranston location. Hey, I think they still own the Burger King, which is right down the street. Maybe they incorporate the two. I mean, I don't know. But I'll tell you who should not be involved in that is Charlene Lee, some rep who was part of the Mattiello leadership team who's trying to inject themselves into something. We're going to fight this by all means necessary. They're not even fighting it. Folks, at what point does the embarrassment end? Now, I want to talk about, because this is important, these Providence school board members, because there's something deeper here. And this is, I really believe, as I've stated, we're getting to a pivotal point right now. And I don't think people fully recognize how pivotal it is. How pivotal it is of where we are right now. But I'm going to tell you about it in just a moment. But folks, I want to remind you, and I want to thank, it was Cheryl that's thinking of having a new kitchen. And she sent me a very nice email, big fan of the program. And she said, who are those people you recommend? I recommend Arch Design Builders, Ed and Roxanne, family-run business. You can call them at 401-207-4124, 401-207-4124, Arch Design Builders, whether it's a new kitchen or a new bathroom or basement or deck or special project. Arch Design Builders, family-owned. Remember, this is high-end, custom-build customer service. Call Roxanne. Set up that meeting. Show her the space. Maybe you've been thinking about opening up your living space. A lot of people do that now. They extend the kitchen into the family room, combine it all into one. Give them a call, 401-218-9707. Arch, A-R-C-H, Arch Design Builders, Ed and Roxanne, 401-218-9707. Now, what I find local media is not covering is that we are really at a pivotal point right now that I don't think it doesn't get any coverage. That folks, right now, to outsiders, Rhode Island is seemingly run by progressive policies. It is, and progressives. And to our detriment, by the way. I think the sanctuary status is really going to start to affect federal funding, as it should. Remember, Rhode Island doesn't need all that. They blow through all the money. Governor McKee just wants to run a welfare state where the taxpayers that are here have to pay for everything and to keep the special interest and all the unions happy and blah, blah, blah. And it's ludicrous. And I think the only way it's going to be solved is to cut off the spigot. You don't need all those. There's 16,000 state workers. 16,000 state workers. New Hampshire has 7,000. Rhode Island doesn't need all those workers. Rhode Island should have under 10,000 state workers. You know what those people say? Well, there's no jobs. Well, if our local officials, if the politicians would stop caving to the special interests to organize labor, you'd have a more business-friendly atmosphere, and companies would want to come and do business here, and then there'd be jobs for people to take. But they don't do that. And on top of that, the city of Providence receives over $300 million in state aid, over $300 million. And then you have this Corey Jones. Now, I know who he is. He was involved with Black Lives Matter. He also worked for Governor McKee, Corey Jones. He's the Providence school board member that wants to remove the Pledge of Allegiance in city schools. Folks, the reason why he wants to do it, and there's another school board member, and this is so. Did you understand? These people have no business being on a school board. Providence schools are failing drastically. Providence schools are some of the worst performing schools in the entire country. 92%. of grades are not proficient in English, in math. And so we have Providence School Board members. We want to get rid of the Pledge of Allegiance. And there's another one. I want to, Corey Jones. There's another one there. Tyrell Stevens said no comment. What does that mean? No comment. He wouldn't say, wants to remove the Pledge of Allegiance. Folks, we're talking about, this has nothing to do with, well, we're going to save 12 seconds. Save 12 seconds. We also, as a province, I will not support removing from our schools. I don't know who exactly that Tyrell Stevens won't say. Yeah, that's a way of saying that he agrees. Corey Jones. Well, we want to say what we're talking about. Is it asking too much to have children stand there and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic, which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice. I pledge allegiance. I mean, how long does that take? But see, it's not about Corey Jones. I think it's a waste of the 12 seconds. See, it's not about that. This is the progressive ideal, where they're trying at a young age get these children. Corey Jones, Black Lives Matter. He worked for Governor McKee. How is someone like that on the Providence School Board? And then you wonder why they're failing. See, he is an extreme progressive. He actually doesn't like the United States of America. And it bothers him that children pledge allegiance to the flag. And then he's got his, whoever that person is, Tyrell Stevens. What do you mean no comment? You know what no comment means? It means I agree with him. We want to get rid of the Pledge of Allegiance. Folks, it's about time. And I don't know who's going to be the one to do it. I don't know about you. I'm tired of sending money to these failing Providence schools. They shouldn't get all that aid. They get, they receive over $300 million a year. And the test scores are some of the worst in the country. And the teachers in the Providence schools, they work 4 hours a day. They get an hour free time. They get an hour for lunch. They are inside the buildings for 6 hours. They arrive at 8 and they leave at 2. And they don't stay after school. And they don't do open house for parents. The union, Dan McGowan has an interesting piece on Mayor Elorza. Mayor Elorza, who's actually now supporting that the money should follow the children, the school vouchers. Of course, the teachers' unions are against it. But former Providence Mayor Jorge Elorza, he has said the Republicans have taken the issue of education, because it's President Trump and the Republicans saying, if someone wants to send their child to pick a Catholic school, then the money that they would pay in taxes should go there. And they absolutely should. The problem is, one of the problems in Rhode Island is Governor McKee is just a puppet to the teachers union. And folks, the teachers union, they have no interest in improving education. They are bullies. They're loud. They're way too powerful and strong. Look in the state Senate. That Val Lawson, she's the president of the Senate. And she's the head of NEA Rhode Island. They have no interest in improving education. The only thing they care about is more dues. More members, more dues, and grabbing money. They're not educators. Justin Katz and myself have talked about this for a while on Lively Experiment, right? And again, I've known Hummel for a long time, but it's our education panel joining us. And they have the president of URI, the president of Rhode Island College, the president of CCRI, and Bob Walsh, the teachers union, or former head. He's a union organizer. Why is he on there? He's not an educator. Insanity. No, I am telling you, things are going to change. The seas are about to get very rough. All the warning signs are there. I still don't see any elected Republican signing off on the warning signs. None. Zero. The only one that was said that I've seen put out anything about the sanctuary status is GOP Chairman Joe Powers. That's it. The rest of them, silent. Corey Jones. We want to stop the Pledge of Allegiance. We want to stop these students in the Providence public schools from respecting the flag. We want to stop them saying that they feel an allegiance to their country. We want to stop this whole thing of pride. These students should hate the United States. We don't want them saying the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, we're going to have Black Lives Matter posters in the classroom. We don't want these young children. Corey Jones, of course he worked for McKee. He's on the Providence School Board. You realize how embarrassing that is? And whoever this Tyrell Stevens is? We don't want kids pledging allegiance to the flag. We want them stomping on the flag. We don't want them saying hello to police. We want them fighting the police. We want to defund the police. These are extreme radical progressives. Corey Jones, Providence School Board member, despises no good cop in a corrupt system. That's his slogan. Every cop is corrupt. Defund the police. We shouldn't have kids pledging allegiance to the flag. We should be teaching them to burn the flag. They're members of the Providence School Board. Who will be the first elected official? Who will be the first elected official that will start to say, why are we funding the Providence schools? Do you realize taxpayers, how much they get in state aid? Over $300 million, close to $400 million. When does that stop? When does someone step forward? The money doesn't go to the students. It goes to the teachers' unions. You don't need all those schools. They're all failing. They're failing schools. You know, even classical is not what it used to be. Classical at one time was a respected school. Now, I see kids on social media that went to classical. They can't even read and write. Classical's not what it was. $400 million of our money. Why? So the school board members, we want to take those 12 seconds of the Pledge of Allegiance, and instead, the children should be allowed to repeat anti-American slogans. See, folks, this is the progressives that are in charge. Now, keep in mind, he served under Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, and now he's a member of the Providence School Board. What an embarrassment this guy is. I knew he was a clown. I sized them up very quickly. I have a clown meter. I can tell a clown. He's a clown. The other one, why are they even there? They're not. Why are they even on a school board? What do they know about it? You know what they feel? There should be more taught about Black Lives Matter. That's their big contribution. Whatever happened to that, by the way? Isn't it amazing? As soon as the money dried up, the organization basically slipped to the wayside. Yeah, that's right. 5 years ago, all those protests were funded. I know. I was there. They were all funded. Isn't it amazing that once the government funds were slashed to organize all those protests, suddenly, you know, the only ones that are organizing protests are the anti-Semitic, pro-Palestinian crowd. Folks, this portion of the program, and even they're funded by anti-Semitic groups. And there's a ton in Rhode Island. Oh my God. I can't believe the people of Providence put up with the amount of anti-Semitism. Now, again, I'm Roman Catholic, but I am a member of the Rhode Island Coalition for Israel. But if I were a practicing, chosen people, Jewish person, I would be screaming up and down how the city allows a lot of these individuals to just fuel all the anti-Semitic talk. Corey Jones. Yeah, that's wasted 12 seconds. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by ServPro. Remember, Serve Pro of Providence. When disaster strikes, water damage, fire, mold, you can count on Serve Pro of Providence. Now online, serveproprovidence.com, or call them 401 941 5500. 401 941 5500. They're available 24/7. If you have a fire, 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, whatever, Sunday morning, Serve Pro of Providence. That's what I'd call. Call them when disaster strikes. Boom. You can depend on them. 401 941 5500. It's not just a house, it's your home. Fire, water, storm, mold, restoration, reliability, results. Serve Pro Providence. Trusted team. Flooded basements, smoke damaged walls, they handle it all. Call them 401 941 5500. Serve Pro of Providence. What I'm trying to say is, admittedly, our local media, to me, they don't cover just how extreme a lot of the policies are and how the state has become. And I don't know. It's not going to change locally. It's not going to change. So, but what's going to happen is, I believe everyone's going to be confused when a lot of the federal funding stops, and it's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. Now you have Providence Place Mall going up for sale. You know what's funny, folks, about the online stuff? I posted Providence Place Mall going up for sale according to Channel 12. And what do I get? A comment. Where are you getting this from? I watch the news, as if there's like one station. Where's this from? Well, you see that line says according to Channel 12. I mean, I'm giving them credit. According to Channel 12, and they're reporting a solid Providence Place Mall is going to go up for sale. Folks, do you see do people see what's happening? More and more people that want to make money, people that want to do business. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen to that mall. Now do you see why Apple is looking for the exit? Apple is absolutely looking to get out of there. And they're going to land in Garden City. When you have members of the school board saying they don't like children saying the Pledge of Allegiance, as if that, oh yeah, we don't want to waste the valuable time of the students, all 12 seconds. All the roads are a disaster. You know, a lot of these people, for instance, the owners of Providence Place Mall, I don't know what's going to happen. And then sometimes you could get some company that just bids on it and watch the decay that could start to go forward. I don't know what's going to happen. I saw some people saying they should knock it down. I don't know. That's an awful big structure to just, knock it down. I don't know what would go in its place. But there are some of these funds, there are some of these companies that they would just grab real estate and they invest in a lot of they're kind of like absentee landlords. So I don't think we've seen bottom yet with Providence Place Mall. For instance, that stuff could get really ugly if you have an absentee owner. And if you wonder what could happen with Providence Place Mall, take a ride up to Emerald Square Mall. It's so frightening to look at what that is compared to what that was. I mean, Emerald Square Mall one time was absolutely. So, folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Now, call Corey today, free estimate at 401-283-9815. If you want to improve your property, have him epoxy your garage. Free quote. They epoxy garages, patios, decorative concrete flooring. It's not that expensive. 401, free estimate, 283-9815. Call Corey and tell him you'd like to whether it's line striping or epoxy, get your garage epoxied. It makes a huge difference. Now, they'll also resurface a tennis court, a basketball court, um, resurfacing sport court, pickleball, tennis, basketball, line striping, quality asphalt seal coating. But get your garage epoxied. I think I'm going to have mine done in the fall. Makes a huge difference. 401 283 9815. Folks, also, let's see. Donald asked me, who is that company that I recommend for landscape materials? Donald, thank you. Nice to hear from you. Donald, call Sean at Watson Materials, 401 885 0600. 401 885 0600. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape materials in southern New England, extensive collection of pavers, retaining walls, mulch, loam, stone, landscape lighting, natural stone, cobblestone. Call Sean at Watson Materials, 401 885 0600. They're the best. The most complete selection of landscape materials is Watson Materials. You're going to love dealing with them. What a difference it makes outside of your home, Watson Materials. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, so coming up on Monday, it is a state holiday for the state of Rhode Island. I want to be clear. I mean, what I'm trying to offer, I'm not just trying to bash or thank you, Jonna, or, I'm not trying to just be negative, but we have to deal in reality. And there are states that are thriving. Our area just doesn't happen to be one of them. I believe, and you see, the police are doing all they can. The police are doing all they can. And you see the different cities. We see it at night, where one thing I will say about the mayor of Providence is he certainly understands the importance of strong law enforcement. But we have an anti-police sentiment in the state. And I just don't know where that's going to lead. But look at some of these crimes. Some of the people being arrested. No one can convince me. You didn't see this stuff years ago. It used to be very rare where there was a sting operation and they arrested someone who's trying to meet up with a young person. And now it's becoming a weekly occurrence. But folks, do you see that when you have a state, and I was trying to tell someone this, a sanctuary state, hear me out, a sanctuary state, it breeds lawlessness. Look at the type of state that Governor McKee has put together. It's the welfare benefits are more generous than other places, so they come in. He gives driving licenses to illegals. So those that want to drive, they come in. He sets up safe injection center. If you want to manage your heroin habit, come to Rhode Island. We'll test your stuff, make sure that it's pure. The roads are disgraceful. Businesses can't operate. People, their normal day-to-day of just a basic commute has been totally turned upside down. It is the state is basically coming apart at the seams. And then what does he announce? He's bringing back Stefan Pryor for Commerce Secretary. I mean, that guy couldn't get out of his own way. He was a Raimondo holdover. I don't get the whole thing. Now he's going to come back. Now, in fairness to Rhode Island Commerce, I'm not sure what exactly they have to work with. I think a lot of what they are trying to do, it's their arms are totally tied behind their back, because it's the business climate is becoming more unfriendly. So remember, police are not allowed to ask someone about their immigration status. Governor McKee could change that. What we really need is an aggressive Republican governor. Probably actually both states, Rhode Island and Mass. I don't know who that's going to be. Maura Healey's not the answer for Massachusetts, but Governor McKee is. His plan, there's no success with his plan. His plan is one of destruction, of running a sanctuary state where the roads are a mess. Now, folks, watch what's going to happen with the lack of federal funding. The state is completely reliant on huge amounts of federal funding. And here's the problem. Who do we send to Congress? Who does Rhode Island, I should say, send to Congress? Gabe Amo and Seth Magaziner. They're not accomplishing anything. All they do is throw rocks. President Trump, they're announcing illegals are no longer going to be counted in the census. That's the only reason Rhode Island has 2 congressional seats. Seth Magaziner, Gabe Amo both say, we both vow to never work with the Republicans. How do you have people like that in Washington? You have Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, he feels that he should have been named to the Supreme Court. He was not named to the Supreme Court. He's not going to be named to the Supreme Court. So he's decided he just starts a personal war against the Supreme Court. He's not accomplishing anything. He set up the wife with the scam where she was getting that money for what? Green energy? Total scam, all government funded. That's a pay-to-play type of scheme. Senator Reid is still there, but Senator Reid basically still is able to work with people with the armed services. You ask anyone, Senator Jack Reed, you've had a family member, someone serving or overseas, all the people that I've ever talked to all say the same thing. Senator Jack Reed reaches out, very instrumental in trying to help families. But aside from that, there's no one working the inside. There's no one even trying to work with the party that's in power. So I think in that, Channel 12 did a very in-depth report about the state being named a sanctuary state. And one of the things, I think it was that immigration person from Roger Williams, she said, I bet this is just an excuse to withhold federal funding. I think she's actually going to be right. And it will be withheld. But why? If you're the Trump administration, you don't have people trying to work with you. You have a state with the most anti-Republican governor in Governor McKee. Can you imagine you're President Trump and you have Sabina Matos? We're going to run you. Blah, 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 blah. You know, if you were the president and you met Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos, is this a state that you would take seriously? If you were in Washington and you meet Gabe Amo and he's a congressman, does that seem like a serious state? The big question for me next year is when are the people going to get really serious? And I even mean that with the elected Republicans. When are they going to really get serious and understand what they're up against? Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by J. Perry Paving. Now remember, they offer a free estimate, any project, J. Perry Paving. Call them 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730, letter J. J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. And remember, no one has a better package for veterans than J. Perry Paving. Call them 401-732-1730. They have a great package for veterans. So maybe your dad's a veteran, or your mom, maybe you're a veteran, or your son, or your grandmother, or your aunt or uncle. J. Perry Paving. Call them 401-732-1730. Maybe one of your neighbors is also a veteran. I've gone to some of their projects, 3 different people, all getting their driveways paved. J. Perry Paving. Call them today. Request a free quote, 401-732-1730, letter J. It's J. Perry Paving. Folks, also a quick plug. Don't forget Jamie's Power Wash. He is just fantastic. 401-837-4545. Jamie's Power Wash. He is a joy to deal with. 401-837-4545. He's another one. I share their Facebook page. So, folks, now coming up, if you're listening to the radio, you're going to hear the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we're going to be active tonight, this weekend, with Road Patrol Live. All right. I'm looking at some headlines. USA and Russia plan truce deal to cement Putin's gains in Ukraine. Why wars don't end anymore. That's according to the Drudge Report. Israel to take Gaza City. Saudi condemns. Germany halts arms exports. All right, so those are just some of the headlines. But obviously closer to home, it's as I mentioned, it's pretty disturbing to see a number of the type of criminals that they're finding. Like I said, last Friday night, what went on in North Kingstown, that was a result of an undercover FBI state police operation. Also with North Kingstown police, they lured someone who was trying to engage with someone. I think that the person thought it was a 13-year-old girl. And then look at the way, that whole thing went down, which was, and then it turns around. And just yesterday, I put out how in Portsmouth, I don't understand what's going on in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, but Portsmouth, you had two illegals and then another local, and they got caught in trying to, again, hook up with these underage. Yeah, I got the press release. Sex trafficking, exploitation of minors operation. That is from the deputy chief of the Portsmouth Police. I mean, and again, they're dealing with Ricardo Ramirez of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and then Jesus Perez Gomez of a Christian Mass. And then they also had Connor McLeod of Newport. Sexual activity, both adults and juveniles. I'm telling you, folks, we need change. All right, listen, everybody. We will be on the air, I believe, on Monday, but we'll see you later on Road Patrol Live. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we will see you big weekend ahead with Road Patrol Live.